You ever see something so out of place, so absurd, that your brain needs a few seconds just to process it? That's what happened the morning my kid came home from school with a big smile on his face and an art project clutched in his little hands. He's 7, still in that stage where everything he makes feels like a masterpiece. He held up a poster board covered in magazine cutouts, glitter glue and scribbled drawings, proudly announcing, "Daddy, look, I called it Mommy's new friend." I smiled at first, ready to play the doting dad, until my eyes landed on the center of the collage. It wasn't a cartoon character. It wasn't a superhero or some random picture from a magazine. No, it was a photo. A real photo. My wife, smiling, and next to her, a man I didn't recognize, his arm draped casually around her shoulders, both of them looking like they'd just come back from a weekend getaway. For a moment my heart stopped. My brain scrambled for explanations. Maybe it was an old family friend. Maybe a cousin. Maybe some harmless misunderstanding. But then I saw the rest of the collage. More photos. Candid ones. Her laughing with him in a park. Her holding his hand at a cafe. A picture of them sitting close in what looked like our living room. And all around the images, my son had glued cutout letters to spell Mommy's new friend. I froze. My son looked up at me with pure innocence, proud of his work. "Do you like it?" he asked. My mouth went dry. I forced a smile, ruffled his hair and said, "Yeah, buddy. It's really creative." Inside though I was shaking. My son had unknowingly become the messenger of betrayal. He'd walked into their little secret world, picked up the evidence, and turned it into art for school. When my wife came home that night, I left the collage on the kitchen table. She walked in, humming, kissed me on the cheek, and then froze when her eyes landed on the poster, her face drained of color. She snatched it up like it was on fire. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. "Our son brought it from school," I said evenly. "Said it was his art project." Her hands trembled as she held the poster. He must have grabbed photos from the wrong drawer," she stammered. "It's just he doesn't know what he's doing." But I knew right then and there that everything I'd ignored, all the little signs, all the unexplained late nights, and hidden texts, it was real. My wife was having an affair, and the evidence had been sitting in a drawer low enough for a 7-year-old to find. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the poster in her face. I just watched her crumble, her excuses falling apart before she even finished them. And something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. She wasn't just careless, she was reckless. Reckless enough to let our kid wander into her secret life. Reckless enough to let him cut out pieces of her lies, and proudly glue them onto cardboard for the whole classroom to see. That night, while she went for a walk to clear her head, I went searching. I opened the drawer in her desk, the one she thought I never touched. Inside was a stack of photos, dozens of them, some printed, some Polaroids, some clearly from her phone. Him and her, everywhere. Coffee shops, hotel lobbies, beaches, even our backyard. My stomach churned as I flipped through them, each one hammering the truth deeper. She wasn't just cheating, she was documenting it. Like she wanted to keep souvenirs of her betrayal. I sat there in the dark, the photos spread across the desk, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not rage, not grief, power. Because she thought she was writing her own story in secret. But now the story was in my hands. The next morning I acted like nothing had happened. I kissed her cheek, told her to have a good day at work, watched her force a smile. I dropped my son at school, then drove straight to the bank. I pulled up every joint account, every card, every asset with both our names on it, and quietly, methodically, I began separating myself. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to storm into her office and cause a scene. No, I was going to be patient. Let her believe she was still in control, still clever. Meanwhile, I'd be pulling the rug out from under her one thread at a time. That week, I started collecting. Every evening, while she showered or scrolled her phone in bed, I took photos of her hidden stash. I downloaded copies of her emails from the laptop she left logged in. I pulled text threads from our shared cloud account she thought I didn't know about. And the more I gathered, the more it all became clear. This wasn't a fling. It was a full-blown double life. They had plans, trips booked, even talks of someday moving in together. But the part that cut deepest, seeing messages where she complained about me, mocked me. He's so oblivious. He'd never guess. It's almost too easy. They laughed at me together, used me as the punchline, and yet, the more I read, the calmer I became, because I wasn't oblivious anymore. I wasn't the joke. I was the man, quietly sharpening the knife, while they bragged about how dull I was. Then came the breaking point. One night, our son came into the living room, holding a photo, another one from her stash. He tilted his head, confusion in his eyes, and asked, "Daddy, why is Mommy holding hands with that man?" My chest tight. I took the photo gently, smiled, and said, "That's just Mommy's friend." He nodded, innocent, and went back to his toys. But inside, I was done. It was one thing to betray me. It was another to drag our kid into it. That weekend, I told her I'd be working late on a project. Instead, I followed her, watched as she met him at a cafe, across town, their hands brushing, their smiles glowing. She looked like a different person with him, lighter, younger, like the woman I'd first fallen in love with. And for the first time, I didn't feel jealousy. I felt disgust, because she wasn't giving him the best of her. She was giving him the worst of herself, the part that lies, cheats and abandons. I sat in my car across the street, taking photos, recording video, evidence, not for revenge in a fit of rage, but for the long game, for custody, for protection, for the day she'd try to spin this story and paint herself as the victim. That night, when she came home smelling faintly of his cologne, I hugged her, kissed her cheek, told her I loved her, and in her eyes, I saw relief. She thought she was safe. That's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted her. Because this wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was about the narrative. She thought she was crafting one, where I was the clueless husband, the background character in her romantic comedy. But thanks to our son, thanks to his innocent art project, I had stumbled onto the script, and I wasn't just going to read my lines, I was going to rewrite the end. The night I hugged her after she came home reeking of his cologne, I realized how perfect the situation was. She thought she'd fooled me, thought she was safe in her little bubble, laughing behind my back. But what she didn't understand was that her own carelessness had handed me the keys to everything. Our son's art project wasn't just an accident. It was the curtain being pulled back, and now I had time, proof, and a plan. I kept collecting every message she sent that synced to the cloud, every bank statement that showed her little cash withdrawals, every unexplained receipt. I didn't confront her, because confrontation gives people wiggle room. I wanted there to be no wiggle room. I wanted her to drown in her own evidence, and slowly, I built a case against her. One that wasn't about jealousy or anger, but about facts. Cold, undeniable facts. Then came the opportunity. The school announced a parent showcase night. Each kid's art projects would be displayed in the gym. My son, proud as ever, wanted to bring his collage, Mommy's new friend. At first I thought about pulling it, saving him the embarrassment. But then I realized something. Kids' innocence has a way of cutting sharper than any planned speech. What better way to let the mask slip than to let her own child's art scream the truth for everyone to see? So I let him bring it. The night of the showcase, parents milled around, sipping coffee, complimenting each other's kids. My wife walked in beside me, smiling like the perfect partner, holding my hand like we were still the couple people thought we were. And then she saw it, dead center in the gym, taped proudly to the wall, my son's collage, Mommy's new friend, the photos of her and her lover beaming for the world to see. Her grip on my hand tightened like a vice. Her face went pale. She tried to dart forward, maybe to rip it down, but it was too late. Other parents had already stopped to look. Whispers spread like wildfire. One mom tilted her head, confusion in her voice. "Is that?" Another dad raised his eyebrows, gave me a sympathetic glance. My wife stood frozen, trembling, caught in the very trap she'd built herself. And I stood calm. I crouched next to my son, complimented his creativity, ruffled his hair, and told him how proud I was. Everyone saw it. They saw me calm, him proud, and her unraveling. That night, back home, she exploded. Tears, accusations, excuses. "You should have stopped him. You humiliated me," she cried. I let her scream until her voice cracked. Then I laid the folder on the kitchen table, The one I'd been building for weeks. Photos, receipts, texts, recordings. Her entire double life splayed out in black and white. You humiliated yourself, I said quietly. All I did was let the truth breathe. She collapsed into a chair, sobbing, tried to spin it, said she was confused, lonely, that it didn't mean anything, but the evidence was louder than her words. And I didn't raise my voice once. I just told her calmly, I've already spoken to a lawyer. Custody, finances, the house. I'm prepared. You'll leave with what's yours, and nothing more. You thought I was blind, but I was watching the whole time. The next weeks were a blur of paperwork and whispered gossip in our community. People gave me sympathetic nods at the grocery store. Some avoided her altogether. The story spread, because stories like that always do. But here's the thing. I wasn't broken. I wasn't the shattered husband, curled up on the couch. I was the man who saw the betrayal, documented it, and walked away stronger. And the irony still makes me shake my head. She thought she was careful, thought she had a hidden drawer, a secret smile, a private life. But she was so reckless, she left the evidence within reach of a child. And it was our son, innocent and proud, who held up her betrayal to the world with glue sticks and glitter. The thing she thought she'd buried became the thing she couldn't escape. I think about that sometimes. How betrayal doesn't just hurt the person you aim it at. It bleeds into everything. Into the kids, the home, the daily routines. She didn't just betray me. She betrayed the family we built. And in the end it was her own child who unknowingly told me the truth. Months later, after the dust settled, people still ask how I kept so calm, why I didn't explode, why I didn't burn everything down. And my answer is simple. Because I learned that rage gives them power, but patience hands it back to you. She used my trust as a weapon, but I turned her own arrogance into her downfall. Now, when I look at my son's art project, yes, I kept it. I don't feel pain anymore. I feel clarity. It sits in a box in my closet, a reminder that lies always find their way to the light, sometimes in court documents, sometimes in a confession, and sometimes in the glitter-glued poster board of a child who doesn't even know what he's holding. And if you're wondering what happened to her new friend, last I heard, he disappeared when the money dried up, when the fun turned into real life. Parasites always do. She tried to crawl back, of course. Late-night texts. We should talk. I miss you. She made her choice, and I made mine. I chose to keep my dignity, to protect my son, to walk away without raising my voice, without losing myself. And that, more than any revenge, was my victory. So if you ever find yourself doubting your instincts, thinking maybe you're crazy for noticing the little things, don't. Pay attention, because the truth has a way of slipping through, even in the smallest, strangest way. In my case, it slipped through in construction paper, glue, and a title written in a 7-year-old's handwriting. Mommy's new friend. That was the end of us, but it was also the start of me.